Pilots are a small handful of the population to begin with. Jet pilots, even smaller. I just feel extremely fortunate and privileged to be a part of that.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Backstage Pass. It's my pleasure to be here today. My name is Jeff Senour, and we have a great lineup today. Today is about aviation. We have two incredible aviators in the house, friends of mine, and I want to introduce them. So, without further ado, we've got John Malisbury and Will Tinsley. What brought you out to LA?
So I went to high school in New Jersey. After that, I graduated, went to Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University and worked there for a defense contractor in Florida for a couple years. And then after that, I had a job opportunity in Silicon Valley working on something called software-defined radio. And with that, I kind of leaped to my next opportunity down here in Los Angeles for a popular aerospace company that a lot of people have heard of. Yeah, now I'm here. I've been here about 5 years. SpaceX, you may have heard of it.
So where'd you learn to fly here in LA, Southern California?
I got everything up through my commercial certificate in New Jersey, and then I went to school for engineering, so I took a little break, but then got my instructor certificate, and I've been instructing since.
Right.
You know, I was always interested in space, and I wanted to build things, so I kind of found my way and worked on a lot of cool projects throughout my career. And you know, now that I've accomplished some things there, I'm kind of taking a swing back to flying and doing a lot of that lately.
And you told me you're instructing now, right? And you have a decathlon. Tell everybody what a decathlon is.
So a super decathlon is a two-seat tandem tail dragger. So we keep that at Hawthorne Airport, and we teach tail wheel training. So if you've ever seen an aircraft, you have the wheel in the front usually in most modern aircraft. But if you put the tail wheel or wheel in the back, it's called a tail dragger, right? And they're typically a little bit more challenging to land, so we kind of teach that kind of airplane on the decathlon. We also do spin and upset training,
cool.
So people can learn to deal with unusual attitudes or things like that in the other aircraft that they fly, and some light aerobatics.
Yeah, I'm a huge proponent of that every pilot should at least have tail wheel flying and aerobatic flying. I just think it's a must, but we're not teaching that anymore, but that's just my old school thinking. I used to teach in a pit, so I loved spin training, and because I think it all comes down to if you ever get inverted inadvertently, you got to know how to get out of it, and many don't, you know, because they're not training that kind of stuff. So that's pretty cool that you do that, and you're teaching new coming pilots, private pilots even. What led you into engineering? Just because you like to build or
I like to build.
things
I started, I think my father introduced me to circuitry, electrical engineering pretty early on. We built a little circuit based on something called a 5-5 timer, and all it would do is it'd blink a little light at a pace, and you can adjust the timing of that with some resistors and capacitors. But from there, a lot of it was sort of self-taught into the topics that I'm doing now, and I'm working on some really cool things that a lot of people get to see in action. So just kind of, again, a bug I caught early on and stuck with me.
And then you're also now flying the Wolfe Air Cessna 337.
I'm doing a variety of flying. So the Wolfe Air, really lucky to be involved with those folks. You know, they're some of the best in the business. So you fly the Lear, and I fly the Skymaster. So it's painted bright red. It's heavily modified and upgraded. Really great for video missions and being able to maneuver. And it's got some structural modifications to handle the gyron camera, which is a very high quality gyro-stabilized camera that we use for air-to-air and air-to-ground shoots. We typically plan out some shots that we want to get, and we'll coordinate with the other pilots of the other aircraft in advance on how we'll join up and the various shots that we want to get from takeoffs and landings. And it's kind of a mixture of like me just flying straight and level, making some turns, and these other pilots maneuvering around me, or us doing the opposite, where we're sort of maneuvering the airplane around to get particular shots and try to keep everything smooth. On top of that, we tend to coordinate with ATC and do like a lot of the flight planning. So it does get busy.
Yes.
Always very exciting. Always like pretty amazing things to see.
And creating great images. Will and I fly the Lear together, and I've known Will quite a while, and our paths have crossed here and there, and we're flying the Wolfe Air Learjet. And but Will also flies for the Condor Squadron out of Van Nuys. So you grew up around the Santa Paula Airport, which is filled with historic Warbirds planes, you know, aerobatic planes. Mm-hmm. What an environment as a kid to grow up in, you know.
A gentleman once likened the environment at Santa Paula to pilots is somewhat like Liverpool was to musicians,
yeah.
as far as the caliber of people that the airport turned out and the caliber of people that were there. So
right.
Where I grew up, we had World War II pilots, we had test pilots, we had a very wide range of people that worked and spent their time there. I was very fortunate to grow up around all of those people with their influence.
That's amazing. And then now you're also a corporate pilot. You fly a Gulfstream.
I fly a Gulfstream for, right now I'm flying for Clay Lacy Aviation, which is, I believe somebody you used to work for.
Yes, started my roots there in jets. Yeah.
And so I've been with them for about 3 years, flying the G4 now.
Yeah,
and
that's a beautiful airplane.
It really is. I really thoroughly enjoy flying that airplane.
Yeah, and the other night you told me you went Teterboro to Van Nuys, and Van Nuys was closed out to fog. And
yeah, well, we had weather delays going out of Teterboro, which put us beyond the time that our intended airport was open, so we had to divert, and just all part of the job. That's one of the things I love about the job.
Pilot, yeah. Don't have quite enough gas to get there.
It's solving problems.
Right.
That's our job.
It is, actually. Yeah. People ask me all the time, like, well, it's all automatic, right? I go, oh, yeah, you just push the Phoenix button, you know, and it goes there, right? There's nothing else to do. I mean, people literally think that. It's so funny. But, boy, when you fly them in bad weather, a snowstorm, you get the handshakes and the thank yous, and, you know, they appreciate, you know, what you do. And then we've flown the Lear jet, the camera jet with Wolfe Air. That, to me, is just a high of a lifetime to get to do that stuff when you pull up next to a Dreamliner, and it's a 500,000-pound machine. You know, what does that do for you when you get? We've flown together many times.
Well, for one thing, I feel very fortunate to have been picked up by Wolfe Air to do this work, and it was through my experience of flying the Lear 25 and my formation experience flying with the Condors that got me in the right person's headlights that got me on board. And there are times when we're out, of course, the days are long, job's not easy, but there are times when I'll be sitting there thinking to myself, why me? Why am I the one that gets to do this? And
yeah, I do too.
It's very challenging, but at the same time, nobody else does it. Pilots are a small handful of the population to begin with. Jet pilots, even smaller. And the people that get to play around with jets and fly next to other jets and do things with them is an even smaller group yet.
Yeah.
And I just feel extremely fortunate and privileged to be a part of that.
Formation flying, you know, what are the, it's not automatic, it's risky, but we try to eliminate the risk as much as possible in what we do. So from your vantage point, you know, explain.
Well, you talk about the risk. There's risk in everything that we do, and we do our best to mitigate that risk. And so we set ourselves up for success in this through our planning, our execution, and the debrief, which is every bit as important. The actual formation flying that we do for Wolfe Air and flying around and doing aerial photography, I look at as being more difficult than the formation flying that we do for the squadron. Generally, when you're flying for an overflight for a parade or a memorial or an air show, you're staying in one spot, and you're staying in that spot and as close as you can, and that's the idea. What we do at Wolfe Air, flying around these airplanes and trying to create these dynamic shots and using all of the views and taking advantage of these opportunities, and
Yeah.
and changing and adapting is much more difficult, and trying to keep it smooth for the cameraman, and just creating the dynamics to me is a lot more difficult. And
Yeah.
it's formation flying. It has a very short shelf life, and it's something that we have to keep doing all the time, because I'm sure you feel it just like I do. If you've been away from it for a few weeks, you really see it, and it takes you a little while to get back into the groove.
Yeah, it's relaxing. It's like,
Yeah, you try and stay relaxed.
you
and
look down, you're at death grip, like, stop.
you do the knuckle test.
Right,
That
right.
white knuckle test. You got to make sure and relax. And
Yeah, and there's to me nothing like the thrill of you pull up next to a plane, and sometimes you can even hear the plane. You know, that's amazing to me, and I wish you could share it more with our family and friends, because it's just such an amazing experience to get to do. We're going to fly next week. We're actually going to do a commercial up in Seattle from Boeing. So, so we get to go do that, and you always keep me out of trouble. So
I think we try and keep each other out of trouble half the time.
Right.
So we just make sure that it's not
It's a
the
good
same
team,
half
right.
that we're keeping each other out of trouble in.
And there's a lot going on that plane. You got, you know, we're talking to the pilots, we're talking to two cameramen in the back. Sometimes we actually have to tell them, can you know, hey guys, calm it down for a minute, because we can't even hear, you know, there's just a lot of chatter. So it's, I tell people it's like sensory overload for 2 hours. You know, it's just sheer concentration. You can't take your guard down, because that's the risk. If you tap each other, it's not good. Yep. So
that's unacceptable.
you do a lot of charity work, a lot, and that's your mission is. It's more than just flying airplanes.
It is. Our mission statement is remembering military aviation through remembrance, exhibition, and flight. We do military flybys for military members that have passed away. We do the missing man formation, which is a very special formation. We do openings for parades, and yes, the Condor Squadron is an all-volunteer charitable 501c3 organization. The squadron itself started, its very first flight was July 4th, 1964.
Wow.
The squadron was founded by World War II veterans, World War II fighter pilots, and mechanics who, after the war, were looking for a way to capture that environment. And it kind of evolved into what it is today, which is a charitable organization. And
we'll keep up the great work, man. You guys do great work, and keep it up. Thank you, and
You're
we
welcome.
can't thank you guys enough. Let's go fly. You ready to go
Let's
fly
do
to
it.
the airport? John, Will, thank you.
Thank you, Jeff.
Let's go fly.